So this week I'm going to teach you one of the strongest card tricks that I've ever taught on this channel. It is devastating. The good news is that, like all the tricks on this channel, it's completely self-working. You don't need any skill to be able to do this. So even if you're a complete beginner, you're going to be able to do one of the strongest, most devastating card tricks ever created. If you could only do one trick, this is the one, seriously. And if you're a professional, guys, you need to be doing this trick. It gets amazing reactions, and the secret is so clever. I guarantee you'll fool yourself the first time you go through it with the cards in hand. It's so cool. I'll even show you how to use this trick to get tons of followers on Instagram every time you do it. So grab a deck of cards, let's get into it. All right guys, so let's get into the trick. So you're gonna take about half the cards, divide them in half, and you give the spectator the choice of either pile. So say they choose this pile, they're gonna mix these cards. Meanwhile, while they're mixing those cards, you mix these cards. And then in the end you swap. Okay, so you get to swap, they mix them, and you mix these. Now, if you've got more than one person, you can hand these out and have multiple people shuffle these cards. It's absolutely fine. So then you say, okay, let's take it a step further. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make two little flowers like this. Okay, make two little flowers of the deck. And then you can cut any number of cards from here, flip them face up, and just mash them into these face down cards like so. So they mix these now, they push them all together and mix them up so that now they've created this absolute mess of face up and face down cards. And you get them to do this a couple of times. They can take any number of cards here, flip them over and mash them into this half over here. And you basically have them keep doing this until they're happy, right? And they can keep doing this, mashing the cards face up and face down and creating an absolute mess, having as much fun as they can, like so. And eventually you just get these mashed in with everything. So if we just push all of this together, there's genuinely no control here. So they end up with this complete mess of cards, like so. And they've done everything. You say to them, look, you know, you could have cut any number of cards and mashed them in, and I've literally not touched the cards. You've created this absolute mess now, right? The crazy thing is that I had a little feeling about what might happen, and a couple of days ago I put a post on my Instagram. For the first time, we're going to take a look. So we bring over my phone now. This is my Instagram. I'm going to go into this post over here, and you will see it says, "This will blow your mind," right? This will blow your mind. Check this out. So there will be exactly 23 cards face up. So we'll check it out. Look, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, exactly 23 cards face up. How crazy is that? But there's more to this prediction. Check this out. So it says there will be exactly 14 black cards. So we'll count the cards. We'll count the black cards. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, exactly 14 black cards. How crazy is that? But we'll go a stage further, right? Because there's more. It says all of the red cards will be even. So check this out. We spread these out now so you can see every single card. You can see every single one of these is even. Oh wait. There is an odd card, the 3 of diamonds. Someone will point that out and go, wait, there's an odd card, the 3 of diamonds. But there's more to the prediction, because the last scroll says, with the exception of the 3 of diamonds. And you have predicted an outcome that nobody could have predicted. This is crazy.
Okay, the effect that you just saw, which is called shuffleboard, was created by Simon Aronson, and it is a great example of how a very simple mathematical idea can be used to create mind-blowing card magic. So what we're going to do here is we're going to empirically kind of verify what's going on. so that you understand, oh, I can see why it works. And this will enable you to not only use the principle more confidently because you'll know what to expect, but it will also give you ideas for how to use it in different situations and perhaps how to even branch off from this core idea and come up with your own principles that could be used in mathematical card magic. Now, one of the challenges in clearing away the complexity of what went on in that presentation is we need to not become overwhelmed with the color of the faces of the cards. Some are red, some are black. Some of these were in the spectators pile at the beginning, others in the performers pile, and then we're flipping things over, face up, face down, moving from one pile to another. It's really easy to just find complexity of all of that mind-boggling, which adds to the surprise at the end that anyone could possibly predict the ending organization of the packet. So to help us reduce the complexity of the presentation you just saw, what I've done here is I've chosen red back cards to have red faces as well. So if you see this card face down, you'll know automatically that the face of the card is also red. I've done the same thing with the blue back deck. So if you want to think of this as black, I guess, or B for black, the face of these cards will be black. Okay, so if you see a blue back card facing down, you know that its face is black. Okay, so that will help quite a bit and improve our chances of not becoming overwhelmed with the visual complexity of red face and black face cards being flipped and transferred and then flipped again and then transferred yet again and so forth. Okay, so that's why I'm going to use cards from two different decks to help us. Okay, so the principle at the heart of this effect, I call it the FOAT, F-O-A-T principle, or the FOAT procedure, okay? And that stands for flip over any number of cards and transfer them. Now, many procedures, like this one, have something called a mathematical invariant. So this is simply some kind of characteristic or property regarding the packets that's unchanged despite the number of times a certain procedure is performed. So here is the property that doesn't change regarding these two piles. So given any two piles of down-facing cards, call one pile the spectators pile and the other pile the performers pile, any number of applications of the FOAT procedure will preserve the following property. Okay, so this is what we're going to kind of explore and informally verify together here. The spectators' original cards will always face the opposite way to the performers' original cards within each of the two changing piles. So the thing to do is think of the performers pile as consisting of just red cards, which is what I'm doing here. And think of the spectators pile as consisting of just black cards. Now, in the actual presentation, that's not true. We have red and blacks mixed in, which is just muddying the waters quite a bit. And that's why people can't see through the chaos of the whole thing. Okay? But this will enable us to clearly see, oh, okay, what really is going on here? Okay? So the first thing I want to show you is if I take, so just think red cards are the performer's original cards, regardless of what pile they get moved to, and the blue back cards are the spectator's cards, regardless of which pile they end up in or get moved to. Okay? So for example, if I want to move just the one card here to the spectator's pile, the way that it's done within this routine is you flip it first and then you kind of mix it in. So we'll just put it up there for now. So whether it's mixed in or not, the important thing is look at the state of the cards. Is it true that the spectator's original cards, which are these blue backed ones here, do they face the opposite way to the performer's cards within that pile? Well, they do, because the spectator's cards are face down, the blue ones, and the performer's card, which is a red face card, is face up. Okay, so that indeed is the case. Okay, now as you might imagine, if we move a card from the spectators pile, remember when we move cards we have to flip them first. Okay, that's really what the procedure was. This new pile will also satisfy that. Is it true that the spectator's original card or cards, well, this is the only card the spectator originally had, and it's sitting right there. Is it true that it faces the opposite way to the performer's original cards that are in that pile? Well, yes, for the same reason. The performer's cards are facing down, and the spectator's card is facing up. Okay, so what we'll find is it doesn't matter how many cards are transferred, and you can do this many times back and forth, this property here will hold. Okay, so that's why it's called a mathematical invariant. This will always be true given this procedure of flipping over any number of cards and then transferring them to the other pile. So for example, if we now take 2 from the performer's pile, flip them over, and then set them on top of the spectator's pile, it is still the case that the spectator's cards, namely the blue ones, are facing the opposite way to the performer's cards. Okay? Now it gets a bit more interesting now if we go back and maybe we'll grab one of the spectator's cards, all of these, and then flip those, which is what's required, right, to move them. Okay? Is this property still the case? Well, it is. The spectator's original cards, which is just this one here, this black one, it faces the opposite way to the performer's original cards. Okay? And if we were to move another one of these over, we flip it and set it down, that will still be the case. Spectator's 2 cards here face the opposite way to the performers. Now if we take all of these here and flip them and set them down, is it still true that the spectator's original cards, which are just the blue back cards, are they facing the opposite way to the performer's original cards? They are indeed. So it doesn't matter how many times you go back and forth, as long as you're flipping them before you set them down on the other pile, this will always happen. It will always be the case that if there are spectator and performer cards within a given pile, they will face the opposite way to each other. Technically, it doesn't matter which pile you flip at the very end. You're going to finish with a packet that satisfies this, namely, the performer's original cards will be facing the opposite way to the spectator's original cards. Okay? And so the only thing the performer needs to watch for this final step is they need to know which cards they want facing up and which cards they want facing down. So if they want the cards from their original pile as the performer to be face down, then this is what they would want right here. If they're wanting the spectator's original cards to be facing down, then we should have flipped the bottom pile on top of the top one, and we would have arrived there. In fact, we would just arrive here. You just flip them, right? Okay. And then the rest of it, it comes down to the construction. So the performer set up one of the piles, let's say his pile, in a special way so that like 14 of the cards were black and a certain number of them were red and even valued except for one, which was a 3 of diamonds, and so forth. So you construct a pile that has the characteristics that you want, and those are the very cards at the end that agree with the written prediction, and then the other cards don't even really matter, the other pile, because in the end they're going to be face down, no one cares about them, and these, let's say, will be face up. Okay, so that really is the secret to it. There's this underlying mathematical invariant that guarantees that this bottom statement will always be true at any stage in this procedure or process. And then the final step is you flip either the top or bottom pile so that the cards that you want face up are face up. I hope that's helpful for some people to really see what's going on. So thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel.
So the first time I tried this trick, I fooled myself so bad. So listen, grab a deck of cards and try this one, because I guarantee you're going to fool yourself with it. And let me know in the comments below if you do. So any deck of cards, no setup, the spectator shuffles up the cards, and then you ask them to remove a secret number of cards from the top of the deck. So you're going to turn your back as they do this, so they would count off a number of cards. So say they think about 12, so they count off 12 cards. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They can remove any number of cards and you have no idea of the number they've removed, and they put them in a pocket. So then you ask them to take the same number of cards. So in our example 12, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you ask them to shuffle these cards. So they give these cards a really good mix, and when they're happy, they're going to stop shuffling and look at the bottom card, and that will be their chosen card. So they can shuffle up and they stop here. So let's say their chosen card is the 5 of diamonds. They then place these cards on top of the cards in their hand. Now remember, you've got no idea of the card they chose or the number of cards they removed. You then turn back around and you explain to the spectator, here's what I'd like you to do. You can name any person and any place in the world. No restrictions, whatever you want. So say they name Matt McGurk, because they're a big Matt McGurk YouTube fan, and they name Spain as the place. So they literally have a free choice of any person and any place. In this example, Matt McGurk. You ask them to spell out the person's name and the place. So in this example, it is M-A-T-T, that's Matt, M-C-G-U-R-K, that's McGurk, and the place was Spain. So S-P-A-I-N, and they're going to put the next card aside. So you ask them to put these cards back on top of the deck, but to make it interesting, they're going to put their secret number back on top of the deck as well. So they put their secret number of cards back on top of the deck, they take the cards in their hands, and they spell out the freely chosen person and freely chosen place. In this example, Matt McGurk, M-A-T-T-M-C-G-U-R-K, and the place was Spain, S-P-A-I-N, and the next card will always be the selected card. I have no idea why this works. This is absolute killer. Right.
Okay, let's go ahead and quickly talk about why this works and if there are restrictions, because Matt mentioned that you can have the spectator choose any name and any place. Well, that's not quite true, because you need those two answers to have more letters in them than the number of cards that was randomly cut by the spectator. Okay, so right here I have X represents the number of cards originally cut by the spectator and then hidden in their pocket or somewhere out of sight. And then Y is going to represent the number of cards spelled out, where you first spell anyone's name followed by any place name. Okay, but the fact is, this quantity I've designated as Y needs to be larger than or equal to the number of cards cut. Otherwise, this won't work. Okay. So in his example, he cut 12 cards and hid them away. And then if you add up all of the letters in his name and then in the place name Spain, it adds up to 15 letters, I believe. Okay, so we in fact do have 12 less than or equal to 15, so it's going to work just fine. In fact, what I'm doing here is I'm using Norman Gilbreth's bracket notation to work through an informal proof of why this will always work for you. Okay, so first off, he uses brackets to denote a packet of playing cards. Well, when you have the whole deck there, you have 52 cards altogether. Okay, now from there, what happened was X number of cards, or in the demonstration it was 12, were cut, and these were set aside out of sight. Okay, so that leaves us with 52 minus X in the rest of the deck. Okay, now we're going to focus on this quantity since these are hidden away, right? Okay, and then from there, if you remember, he had the spectator count out that same number of cards, X cards, or 12 in the demonstration, and then remember the bottom card of that set of 12, and then place them back on top. Okay, so what the asterisk here represents in the notation of Norman Gilbreth, it's denoting here X number of cards, and the last card among those X cards is the card of interest. Here, the spectator card. Whereas if I have the asterisk on the front before the X, that would denote that the first card in this set of X cards is the card of interest, or the spectator's card. Okay, now something that really is helpful is to not carry any unnecessary information with you. So what Gilbreth would do is he would have the quantities of interest, like the number of cards here cut, with the last one noted. The ... just means the rest of the deck, the rest of the cards, okay? So we're not going to carry around the end portion of the deck in our notation. Okay, so here, no change. I just dropped all of this. And actually no change here too, but this is a very important step. And this is the kind of clever thing that Norman Gilbreth would do over and over. Now, what I've done here is I've written the quantity y minus x, and then the rest of the deck. Now, technically, nothing's happened. There's no action. The performer or the spectator hasn't changed the deck or any of the cards in any way. But what we're doing is we're rewriting it in such a way that when we go to spell out the Y cards that correspond to a person's random name and random place name, that number of Y cards is actually being represented right here, for the simple reason that if you take X plus Y minus X, you get Y, okay? And now, if these cards here are dealt or spelled out to the table, it reverses their order, and then the spectator was asked to put those back on top of the rest of the deck. So that's what's happened here. The Y cards are dealt and then set back on top. Well, what is that going to do? It's going to flip everything. So the cards that were over here, further down the deck, are now in front. And the X cards here get moved below those because they've been reverse counted and then set back on top. But the important thing to remember is if these X cards are reversed in order, the spectator's card used to be the last card in that set of X. Now it's the first card in that set of X cards. Okay, so here an action has actually taken place, and then Matt had the spectator bring out the originally cut cards, there's X of them, and set them on top. Okay, so there it is. Those are the cards that were hidden away in a pocket or something. Okay, and then we're noting here, if you look at the quantity of cards here, we have X followed by Y minus X. Well, X plus Y minus X is equal to Y, just as we mentioned up here, right? So we can replace all of this with just Y. Okay, so we've just done a replacement there, but that makes clear that the spectator's card is just Y cards below the top of the deck. So that when these Y cards, when the randomly chosen name of a person and place name are dealt out, it moves all of these cards into its own little pile. That's why we have separate brackets. And now we can see that the spectator's card is the very top card of the rest of the deck, which would then just be set aside, would be revealed. Okay, so really that's all there is to this, and it will work for you as long as this condition is met. However many cards you cut, you have to be sure or confident that you're going to spell out at least that number of cards for the question that you pose to the spectator, and then it will work beautifully. Okay, so anyway, this is kind of an introduction to some of what Norman Gilbreth has done. In fact, I do have a video or two on these B brackets in this kind of notation that allows you to discover a lot of really amazing card effects, because the notation guides you and clarifies what's going on, when otherwise it would be pretty murky and difficult to see why a particular effect is working. Okay, so if you want to take a look at the links below, that would be great. So thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel. Okay, here is one of the best card effects ever that requires zero setup. Okay, so you begin with a shuffled deck of cards. In fact, it actually doesn't have to be a complete deck. And then all you do is you cut off about 1/3 of the deck, about 1/3. And then those cards can be mixed as much as the spectator would like. When they're happy with the mixing, they remember the bottom card. which I believe is the 10 of hearts. That's the card for them to remember. Now they're free to name any card in the deck, and we're simply going to spell out that card 3 times. He goes with 2 of clubs. So here we go. T, W, O, O, F, C, L, U, B, S. Drop the rest on top. That's the first spelling. So we'll spell 2 of clubs a second time. T, W, O, O, F, C, L, U, B, S. And now we'll spell it for a third and final time. 2 of clubs, T, W, O, O, F, C, L, U, B, S. And believe it or not, the spectator's card somehow has risen to the top. And he is so amazed by this performance that he throws the cards behind him in surprise, like, what is going on with this routine? And then he freely admits, I have no idea why this works. And so that's what we're going to look at today. Why does it work? And who is the one that discovered the principle behind this amazing card routine? Okay, before we look at why this effect works and how you could use it in other situations, as well as who is the person who came up with the original idea driving this effect, I thought I would show you a variation that has more of a narrative to it that spectators just seem to love. So I call this the Your Card is the routine. Okay, so we're going to be using the cards as a lie detector. Now for this, you can start with a shuffled deck of cards, just like Matt had there. So you mix the cards as much as you like. And in a similar way, you need about a third of the deck. So you just cut off about a third of the deck for this. Technically, between 15 and 23 cards will work just fine. And so what you do here is it begins in a similar way. You show the spectator the identity of the bottom card. Now, as the performer, I wouldn't see this normally, right? So the spectator's card is the 10 of spades, and then you just turn the packet down. And then you tell the spectator, we're going to use this small packet of cards that I just randomly pulled off the top as a lie detector, okay? And so I'm going to ask you in a minute, what is the identity of the card that you saw? And then the cards are going to reveal whether or not you're truthful in your answer. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do for this lie detection procedure is go ahead and just spell out your card is the. Okay, so YOURCARDISTHE. Your card is the. And then you turn to the spectator and you ask them what was the card that you saw, with the proviso that they may lie if they like. But regardless of what they say, the cards will reveal the truth. Okay, so you turn to them and say, what's the card you saw? And they may say King of Diamonds or something. Most spectators will lie for some reason. So King of Diamonds, are you sure? Okay, so we're going to spell the name of your claimed card there, King of Diamonds, KINGOFDIAMONDS, King of Diamonds. Okay, well, let's discover the truth. I'm going to spell out your card is the, and we'll see what the cards tell us about your answer. Okay, YOUR, your CARD, card, IS is THE. I am sorry, but you have been caught in a lie. Your card was not the King of Diamonds. It was, in fact, the 10 of spades, and the cards detected that perfectly. Okay, so this is also a routine that is guaranteed to work for you if you take off roughly a third of the deck, anywhere between 15 and 23 cards. Doing what I did here is guaranteed to work as a lie detection routine. Okay, and also I want to point out in the description below, I will link a one-page write-up of this with all of the steps and explanations so that you can have that as a physical copy, I guess, to refer to and practice from. Okay, so look in the description below for that. It will be a PDF that you can download. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on and who discovered this amazing property. Okay, the author of this bottom to top principle, Colm Mulcahy, and he's written this must-read, wonderfully written book on mathematical card magic, 52 New Effects. This is just an amazing masterpiece in the field of mathematical card magic. It truly is. Colm calls this the bottom to top principle. Okay. Now, once you understand the principle, you'll know how to use it in different situations, like different packet sizes. Okay. So here's the principle. The original bottom card of a packet of N cards, which in the case of both of these presentations was about 15 to 20, ends up on top after 3 dealings of K cards and dropping the remaining N minus K cards on top, provided that K, so the number of cards that you're like spelling out, is larger than or equal to the packet size divided by 2. Okay, so that may sound complicated, but I'm going to apply it to the routine that we saw at the beginning. Okay, so it's not as scary as you might think. Okay. So the question is, what size packet do you need to bring the bottom card to the top when spelling any of the 52 card names? Okay, so the first thing we need to realize is card names have between 10 and 15 letters in them. Okay, so the shortest name, like ace of clubs or 6 of clubs, any of the 3-letter card names together with the clubs, that's the shortest you can get for the card names. There's 10 letters in them. Okay, the longest of the card names is 15. So something like Queen of Diamonds or 7 of Diamonds. Okay, so the K referred to up here needs to be a number between 10 and 15. So we're trying to find a packet size for which, if you have somewhere between 10 and 15 cards, this bottom to top principle will work for you. It will bring that bottom card to the top after spelling out that card name 3 times. Okay, so the packet size N has to satisfy this inequality right there. Okay, so let's just take a look at that. So first off, something to be aware of is because some card names have 15 letters, we don't want fewer than 15 cards in the packet that we cut off, because otherwise we'll run out of cards when spelling that card name if we don't have at least 15 cards. And that will cause issues because that takes you into the realm of what's called hypercodings. So this principle is assuming that you don't go over, that you cannot deal out more cards than you have in the packet. And our packet size needs to be at least 15 because of these larger card names. Okay, so the minimum's right there. Okay, now the tricky one is figuring out what is the maximum number of cards that we can use and be guaranteed that the bottom card rises to the top. Well, we just use this inequality, and now he proves this to be the case mathematically in his book on the left-hand side of the screen there. Okay, so the reason that 20 is the maximum, it's for the fact that we need all the values between 10 and 15 satisfying this inequality. Okay, and the number that's going to potentially get us into trouble is the 10 here, the lower value in this range. Okay, so that means that we need 10 to be larger than or equal to n over 2. Well, another way to rewrite that, and I just realized it's kind of going off the screen, is the fact that we would need 20 would have to be bigger than or equal to n. Or said differently, n will have to be less than or equal to 20. So that gives us our range here. So the packet can have as few as 15 cards, and you're still safe, up to 20 cards, and you'll be safe. Okay? So that's how many cards you'll need for the original performance that I started with. And if a person shoots for about a third of the deck, most likely they're going to hit this range of 15 to 20 cards. Now, the effect that I showed you with the your card is the uses a principle in this same book, and for the conditions there, I'll point you to the text itself, okay, because it gets a bit more involved. But I have already revealed that between 15 and 23 cards is guaranteed to make my lie detector routine work perfectly. Okay, so I appreciate you watching, and take a look at the links in the description below. In fact, I have an entire playlist that uses this principle, and on my channel, I call this principle the 3rd time's a charm principle. That's why you'll see that name, 3rd time's a charm, because we're doing something 3 times that brings about something, quote, magical. Whereas Colm originally called the principle low down triple dealing, which is a fun name as well. Okay, well, thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel. Okay, Matt begins with the 4 queens, and the narrative is the 4 queens like to stand out in any crowd in which they find themselves. And now he's going to deal out 16 additional but random cards this time. And just so you know, there's no sleight of hand in this performance whatsoever. Okay, and now he's going to mix those cards and then fan them out. And then he's going to have the spectator randomly insert the queens into this packet of 16. Okay, and then from there, he's going to further mix the cards with an overhand shuffle, a riffle shuffle, even a Hindu shuffle. So these cards are going to be extremely well mixed, and they can be, okay? And he's showing that. Now what he's going to do is deal out half the cards into one pile and then randomly flip either pile. And then from there, he's going to perfectly interlace the cards, like left, right, okay? And it doesn't matter how you begin the left, right, or right, left. Okay, so as long as you consistently interlace these, this is going to work just fine, okay? Now, once he's done that, this packet is, in some sense, protected from the Hummer shuffle. And what's a Hummer shuffle? Well, it's a random cut followed by flipping over any even number of cards, okay? So you can set down a pair of cards as is or flip it. Set down a pair as is or flip it. It's really your choice. The spectator can say down, flip, for any pairs. In fact, you can even do that for sets of 4 or sets of 6, followed by a random cut. Now, all he's going to do is deal out the cards into a 4-hour clock, okay, just like this. And then the piles across from each other can be randomly stacked, okay? In any order, the piles can be set on top of each other or below the other, okay? And so it's decided by the spectator as to where it goes. That's fine. Same thing for the other set of piles. They can be randomly stacked however you would like, or the spectator would like, importantly. And then from here, all we're going to do is we're going to flip over either pile and then just bring those 2 piles together, okay? Now, unbelievably, the organization of the cards with the queens face up at the beginning has somehow been restored after all of that crazy mixing that we call a Hummer shuffle, okay? And there they are, the 4 queens standing out from the crowd, just as they always hope to accomplish. So what I thought I would do is just give you a quick overview of what's going on in terms of why this is working. And then if you're wanting a more in-depth explanation of the Hummer principle and how you can use it in card magic, take a look at the links in the description below. Okay, so I have 16 random cards, just as Matt did. Now these queens can be placed anywhere. They truly can. It doesn't matter where they are. Now the key is The queens right now are facing the opposite way to all of the other 16 cards. Now, in the end, we hope to achieve that once again, okay? So we can mix these cards as much as we like, which is amazing, actually. So you can just table wash these if you like. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you don't flip over any cards. Don't flip over any cards from their current orientation, okay? Now, what will, quote, protect these 4 queens, that's interesting, they ended up as pairs, that's fun. What will end up protecting these 4 queens to guarantee that they'll be facing the opposite way to the other cards, what a person needs to do is anything equivalent to flipping over every other card, okay? And so what most people would do is you just do a down, flip, down, flip, down, flip, down, flip, okay? So doing this protects those queens from the Hummer shuffle, okay? So the Hummer shuffle is what Matt did, where he set out pairs of cards and you could set them down as is or flip them. Okay, so this is a key step in a Hummer routine, anything equivalent to doing that. Well, it ends up that what Matt did with dividing the cards in half, he dealt 10 into one pile and 10 into another, and then he flipped one of those, and then he perfectly interlaced them. Well, if you think about it, what he's doing is flipping over every other card. It's going to have a similar or an analogous effect to what we've done to the packet here, okay? And so what it does is it protects this packet from what's going to come next, which is the Hummer shuffle. Okay, so what's the Hummer shuffle? Hummer shuffle is you can randomly cut the packet and then flip over any even number of cards. Okay, so like we can flip those, flip these 2. In fact, since it's any even number, you can flip 4. Okay, random cut. Maybe we'll flip 2 this time. Okay, maybe flip 4. Okay, now I know Matt just worked with pairs, but you can work with any even number whatsoever, even 6. Whoa, flip 6 of them and so forth. Okay, and then you can do a table Hummer shuffle as well, where you set out even packets of cards, okay, of various sizes even, okay, like this. Some of these are 4, some are 2, and then you can pick up any of these and either flip it over and randomly stack it on top of any of these, or not flip it over. So I could like flip this, set it on top of that one. Now I can take this one and just set it down as is if you'd like, or you can flip the whole packet and set it down on top of this one. Maybe flip it, set it on top of that one. Now maybe we'll just set it down on top, and then this one will flip on top. Those are all Hummer shuffles talked about in the videos below. And then to recover the original state of the cards with the queens facing one way and all of the other cards facing the other way, we just need to do anything that's equivalent to flipping over every other card. I call those parity separation procedures. Okay, so flipping over every other card will restore the queens facing one way and the other cards facing the other. Now what Matt did was he just dealt out the cards into a 4-hour clock. We just have to think about what's going on. So like if we think of this as position 1, 2, 3, so that's position 1 and 3. They're both odd. This was 2, 4. These are both even positions. Okay, you put it like that. And then he said, okay, let's work with the piles across from each other. Well, these are odd position cards here. It started as position 1 for the very first card, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 9, and so forth. So these can be randomly stacked together, okay? The same thing here. These are even position cards. They can be stacked in any order. And so to finish the flipping over of every other card, you have to remember all of the odd position cards are here. all of the even position cards are here. So if we flip over either one of these, it's going to be equivalent to just doing a down flip throughout the whole packet. So we can flip this one like that, random stack like this, okay? And then you just turn the packet over. Sorry, and I went off the screen. And show to the whole world that those queens somehow are standing out from the crowd yet again. Okay, so that's a very simple Hummer performance, but if you want to understand deeply what's going on with this principle, it will enable you to create your own original card effects using this principle, because it's one of the most powerful principles in all of mathematical card magic. And the Hummer principle is named after Bob Hummer, who discovered the principle. And the principle is often also referred to as the Cato principle. So capital C-A-T-O for cut anywhere and turn over to. And all of that's talked about in the videos linked below. So thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel. Okay, here's a classic mathematical card effect involving a 12-hour clock. Now, Matt's handling of this effect is different from mine. I'll have his playing in the background, but I'll show you how I prefer to do it. So I'll have his linked in the description below. So if you'd like to watch his original version, it will be there for you to watch. But for this effect, you need 13 random cards chosen by the spectator, and then have the spectator mix those cards as much as they would like. When they're satisfied with the mixing, have them cut off any number of cards from that pile of 13 and to hide those cards somewhere in a pocket or under the table, okay? And so we'll bring those out in just a moment. Now what he does is he has the spectator, after mixing these cards further, note the identity of the bottom card, which is great. So it's a 4 of hearts, I believe. And then this packet is set on top of the rest of the deck, okay? Now from here, he goes into creating a clock configuration immediately. That will be a little different than what I'll do. So he's going to build a clock starting at 12 o'clock and then going backwards, 11, 10, 9, and so forth. Okay, so 12 o'clock, and he has the clock facing us, the viewer here. 10, and then 9, 8, 7. In fact, he builds a much tidier clock than I probably will. Maybe he practiced a bit to get it nice and symmetrical here. Okay, and then the final card for 1 o'clock. Okay, and then he says, well, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the cards that you cut off at the very beginning, now that we know how the clock is constructed. Okay, so you have them grab those cards that they ran. You have to realize it was a random cut, and have them count the number of cards that they randomly cut. Okay, and I believe it's 7 cards. Okay, so what you do is you say, well, 7, well, that means 7 o'clock for us here. So why don't we count to 7 o'clock on the clock? So we have 1 o'clock, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, where does that bring us? Right to the spectator's card. Absolutely amazing. That was a free cut by the spectator, and somehow they were able to find their card. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so that's Matt's presentation, which is a great way to do it. But like I said, I'll do it a little bit differently. First off, I want to point out that I'll have in the description below a link to a video called Magic Clock, in which I go through the mathematics behind this effect. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a different handling of this effect that I think is easier to remember and a bit more intuitive. So what I've done here is I've selected 13 random cards, but they're blue back. Okay, so that's going to enable us to essentially look under the hood to see why this works. And then if you're interested in a mathematical proof and explanation of why it works, I have a write-up right here, and then I'll point you to the video that I've linked below that I've mentioned already. Okay, so let's kind of dissect this and see what's going on with it. So these are representing the 13 random cards chosen by the spectator, and we'll be able to spot them mixed in with the red, of course. Okay, so these can be mixed thoroughly and so forth. So the spectator cuts off any number of cards, and we'll set them right here for later. Okay, and then they need to remember the identity of the bottom card. Now I think what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and just have that face up so that we can kind of watch it. And then I'm going to set it on top of the rest of the deck. Now, of course, when you go to do this, you don't have two colors of cards that you're working with, right? This is just for educational reasons, right? Okay, and then my handling goes as follows. You just deal out to the table first 12 cards for the 12 hours for constructing the clock. So you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 cards, okay? So these cards are now reversed from what they were before and in the reverse order to what Matt did, okay? Now all we do is we just deal them out. So 1 o'clock, so we deal to 1 o'clock first. We just deal them out in the normal order that you would deal out cards to create a clock, right? 1 o'clock, 2, 3, and then there's 4, and 5, 6 o'clock down here, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm going to go off, 11, and then 12 up there. Okay, sorry about that, but that's 12 going off the screen there. Okay, and then you just turn to the spectator and say, okay, let's see how many cards that you randomly cut off, okay? And so you can have the spectator openly count those, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 were randomly cut. And then you just tell them, I think those 4 cards are telling us something. I think if you go to the 4 o'clock hour on our clock, we might discover something interesting or surprising, okay? And now you can see what's going to happen. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then when they reveal the card in the 4 o'clock position, it will in fact be the card that they noted at the beginning. Okay, so you can kind of see it working here. Now the important thing is, why does this work from an intuitive point of view? So let's just look at kind of an informal discussion or justification for why this works. And then if you want to understand the precise mathematical proof for it, then I'll point you to that other video. And you can even take a screenshot of my write-up because it explains it as well. Okay, so let's just think about this for a moment. Let's say, so they cut off 4 originally. Let's say they had cut off 1 more card. Well, think about it. If they had 1 more card when we were dealing all of these, right? Remember how we were dealing them? The final card that we dealt was this one. So if they had retained 1 more, that one wouldn't be there, right? In fact, what that would have meant is we would have picked up another red card, right? To get up to 12. For this number to be 12, we'd need 1 more red. Well, all that does, so just look at what that does. This card would no longer be in the 11 o'clock position. It would be in the 12 o'clock position, okay? For the simple reason that we would have had 1 more red card, which are being dealt to the table first. So this would have been 1 o'clock. So it's almost like you're just rotating the clock by 1 hour. That's all you're doing. And then this rotates to the center like that. Okay. And so now that we've cut off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, count again, 1 o'clock, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it doesn't matter how many cards are in this packet. What it does is it increases the number of red cards that you're going to need to get up to 12. And that has the effect of just rotating the clock 1 hour for each additional card, red card that you need, okay? So that's why it's working. This number of cards is exactly tied to the position of that noted card at the very beginning, okay? Very, very cool effects, okay? So if you're interested in understanding really the proof for it, why does it always work, I tried to just kind of convince you that it makes sense intuitively. But here I've used something called Norman Gilbreth's bracket notation. So this mathematical way of describing what's going on in this particular card effect, this is notation that Norman Gilbreth invented, and that's the same Gilbreth who discovered the Gilbreth principle, okay? And so I've given a full proof of this effect using Gilbreth's bracket notation. And this will tell you that, in fact, this card here, this is the spectator noted card, the red one with an asterisk, is going to be in position X, where X is the number of cards that was freely cut, okay? So this is the packet of cards cut by the spectator and hidden away. And then at the end of the proof here, we find that there'll be X minus 1 cards above the spectator's card, which means you'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you'll get up to X minus 1, and the next card will be the spectator's card, and it is in position X. So the Xth position of the clock means that the number of cards that they cut, which is equal to X, will actually locate the position of the spectator's card within this 12-hour clock. Really cool. But if you're wanting to understand this fully, take a look at that link in the description below because I go into Gilbreth's bracket notation in depth and show you how you can use it to prove not only this effect, but several other classic card effects, like the 21 card force. If you've heard of that before, the 21 card force can be easily proven to work and be true using Gilbreth's bracket notation. So thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel.